Hi, my name is Steve, and I'm going to give you guys the basics on how to write any APA essay. So in this video, I'm going to cover the things you need to know that would apply to any essay, whether it's informative, persuasive, or a summary analysis. Just the basics of what do you need to put into an essay to make it match the APA requirements. I'm going to go and minimize myself here so we can look at Word. So here we are, starting right off the bat. So first off, generally speaking, your margins, that's this area around the outside, should be set to 1 inch on every side. That's the default for Word usually, but if you're not sure how to do that, hit this layout button and you can change your margins right here, right? The normal is 1 inch on each side. That's what you want. So we're already set up good. Perfect. The next thing you want is a page number in the upper right corner. So I'm just going to give this page number 1 here just to see how it looks, but it's hard to get it way over there, right? So what you do is you go to Insert, and you say page number right here, and you say top of page, upper right. Boom, there you go. Now the page number is up in this extra area, up in the header, right? So it's not going to be bothered. The essay has nothing to do with it. And if you do that right, see, now I have to click close header or footer. Now there should be, we'll only have one page, but that should be a page number up there on every single page. And you want that. Even your cover page should have a page number in the upper right corner. So then, since we're making the cover page, how do you do that? Well, first off, the cover page is centered. So you see here the alignment button. You want to push this one here, center it. Go down a little bit towards the middle, and then give it a title. So every essay's title needs to be in title case and in bold, right? So this example essay, I'm going to call it The Beast Within, just because that's a cool name, right? You want your title doesn't need to be a full sentence. It should never be a full sentence. You want it just to be a phrase or even one word. But it can be very long. But if it's long, don't put a period at the end. That's the main thing. It's not an actual sentence, right? You can have a question mark at the end or exclamation point if they make sense. Like, the beast within, if that makes sense. It doesn't look tacky. But there should never be a period right at the bottom. And see what I did for title case? You capitalize the first word and any other word that's not an article. So it also needs to be bold, though. How do you do that? Highlight it. Mine pops up right here, but you can also hit the button up here. Bold. So what else goes on this page? I'm going to hit enter. Now we want to turn bold off because only the title should be in bold. And I'm going to put my name. Let's say Steve Cave. So people know I wrote it. Then put the school name. So how about College University? That's where I'm going to school. And then the next one will be the name of the class. This is almost always English 102 if I'm teaching it, but you know how it goes. So let's say Eng 102, and then we do, what is it? We have the name of the school, the name of the class, the author's name, but then you also want my name, as in like your professor. So Professor Cave or Steve or whatever. In my class, you can call me whatever you want as long as it's respectful. But some universities get really sticky on the name. It has to be professor or something like that. So you want to know. Ask your professors. But that's the information you need. And then the last one is one more piece. I always look. There's 5 things that shouldn't be bolded. The last one is the date. So today is the 24th, and the year is 2020X. So there we are. There's our cover page. That looks pretty good, right? So now I want to go to the next page. So a lot of people, in order to get to the next page, would hit the enter button a bunch. See my little cursor bounce down? And that's fine. But then sometimes if you change things, you can end up messing up where the next page starts. So an easier and cleaner way to do that is to come up here to the insert. So I'm going up to the insert button, click that, and then hit pages and hit page break. And that cuts the paper off right there, wherever my cursor is. Boom! Gives us a new page. And we're started right at the top of it. Oh, look, the page number worked. Perfect. So now we're on the second page. So for the second page, we don't want it centered. We're still centered from up here. So we want that to stop. So I'm going to hit this button. This is what you want. You want aligned left, not justified. Justified spreads your words out so they fit in a square, and it can often make things look really, really bizarre. So APA formatting is left, align left. So click that. Now here we are. Here's our cursor right here. The top line should be the title of your essay again. So let's go make sure it's exactly the same. To do that, I'm going to highlight it by triple clicking it and then hit Control C. You could also use Command C if it's an Apple computer. That just copies it. You could retype it here if you want, but I'm just going to go bam. There. That was easy, right? It needs to match, so it should match right there. Now we're on the next page, the next line. It should also be centered. Because I copied it from here, it kept the formatting to be centered. And then we go to the next part here, and that's where the essay should start. You hit tab to indent. Always indent every paragraph. And then we start with your introduction. So my introduction would be some type of a hook. That's usually the best way to do it. Something to grab the reader's attention. That's more like advanced writing if you want to do really good hooks. So if you end up hearing me giving you advice on it, it means I think you're a good writer. So hook for this. Let's say my essay is about werewolves, because why not? And my quote at the beginning could be, the beast is in all of us. And, said, or wrote the philosopher Thomas Aquinas. Did Thomas Aquinas actually say that? I doubt it. But and so don't make this up. Don't lie like I'm doing for my example. But in theory, at this point, you should have done. I would have a lot of research already done, right? So I'm starting my essay. So but you want some type of an attention getter, like a cool quote like that's great. And then you want background information. So what is this essay even about? Who knows? It doesn't really matter for showing you how to do the template. But in general, what you want a hook. Then you want background info. So you say werewolves have been in Western literature. Try to do Australia literature since the dawn of the West. I mean, it's kind of a weird statement, but it's true. Now I notice one thing immediately: my spacing. These two lines are really close to each other, right? So your essay should be in double spaced. That's also a feature of APA 7. So I highlight it, and you go up to this little guy, this little button with the blue arrows next to it. Click on it, and you can pick your spacing. By the way, this is also, if you ever end up having, you want weird spaces before or afterwards, see how this title has a weird space underneath it? If I wanted to get rid of that, same place. Go up here and hit remove space after paragraph, and then, ooh, look how close everything is. But that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So I'm going to go up here and hit 2.0. That's what we want. Boom, double spaced. This should also be double spaced, but it looks like it kind of already was, doesn't it? Let's make sure. Double spaced. All right, that looks good. So we come back down here. We have our hook. We have some background. Let's imagine I write a bunch more background about werewolves and their history. I'm just going to copy and paste that same sentence so it looks more full. You see the space. And then somewhere near the end of my intro, I need my thesis statement. So what is a thesis statement? Now, this is a question that haunts so many students, right? A thesis statement is, at its basic core, is a summary of the essay. It's just telling the reader what you're saying, because every essay has to have a central claim. That's the main thing that your essay is saying, whatever it's claiming to be true, right? If it's an informative essay, your central claim, it's the same thing. You have a central claim, and then you prove it with your examples or your reasons why that's right. There's a lot of words people use to describe what those subpoints are, but really they're reasons. They're reasons that your central claim is correct. So it's an informative essay, you'd have your central claim, reasons why. If it's a persuasive essay, same thing, central claim, and then reasons why people should change their mind and agree with you. Still defending that central claim. Even for a summary analysis essay, which is a bit bigger, it's where you read somebody else's work, summarize it, and then analyze it. That still needs a thesis statement. Anything that is an academic essay needs that thesis statement. And it's not that hard to write. If your eyes are glossing over right now and you're like, oh no, thesis statements, these are impossible. Let me show you a couple of tricks. So the basic format template for a thesis statement is just simply this: claim plus reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3, right? So for example, if for this essay, maybe what is my central claim? I haven't even thought about that. It's about werewolves, but that's not a claim. That's a topic, right? So maybe this is an informative essay about how, what? Well, I could go either philosophy or I could go lots of directions with this. But I'm just going to write, this essay is going to be about the history of werewolves in Western literature. Sure, why not, right? Because that's an informative essay. So then my central claim, I still need one. What is it? What is it? And my central claim might be that what I just set up here, that werewolves have been in Western literature since the dawn of the West. And then my reasons would be explaining, giving you evidence that I'm right? Maybe I would share from ancient Greek myths, or share from ancient writers, or share from Celtic mythology, something like that. I'd call in those things. But that's not really what I want to write. The more I think about it, and this, by the way, is part of writing an essay. You research a bit. Maybe I look online and I go, oh, I don't know. There's really only one ancient source, and it's Greek, and that's great, but I don't know. I'm not sure this is enough to write a 3-point thesis statement. So what else do I need? And so I would think maybe how about let's talk about werewolves in current literature. Ooh, that's more exciting. So then still, that's a topic. What's my central claim? My central claim is going to be that the 21st century werewolf, so I'm talking about werewolves since the year 2000, 21st century werewolf, oh, I must be like a plural, werewolves, what is it, are more heroic, dangerous, and I don't know, interesting than hear my dogs, of the past. So that's a thesis statement, right? So my central claim is that 21st century werewolves are more, but see, what's my claim? Are more heroic, are more dangerous, are more interesting than werewolves of the past. So my claim really is that 21st century werewolves are more than werewolves of the past. That's not that exciting, and it's kind of strange, right? Let's tweak it some more. The 21st century werewolves are different from werewolves of the past in that they are more heroic, dangerous, and interesting. And then I'll cut this part out. Now my central claim is 21st century werewolves, I'm going to cut that word "the" out. Century werewolves are different from werewolves of the past. So this is my claim. And it's very true. It's super true, right? So this is very much for an informative essay. So in order to be bringing something new to the table, my points better be something interesting, right? So it's not a boring essay. So let's look at it. So then my reasons 1, 2, and 3 are that werewolves are heroic. They're more heroic than werewolves of the past. They're more dangerous than werewolves of the past. And they're more interesting than werewolves of the past. Cool. So there's my thesis statement. I'm just going to go ahead and drop that at the end of my intro paragraph. Perfect. Yay. So introduction done. And then I want to write those body paragraphs, right? So the body paragraphs are going to be about how heroic they are, dangerous, and interesting. So I'm going to say 21st century werewolves are more heroic. That's not that exciting, but what I'm doing there is I'm creating a heading. So this also has to be centered. In APA, we like to have headings for every section. In a 5-paragraph essay, that means every paragraph has a heading. So, but in your longer essays, like your last one, you're going to write a much longer essay. In that one, you'll have definite sections. So it's good to practice. So anyway, headings are treated exactly the same way in APA as titles. So they need to be in title case. See how those, the word more needs to be, and bold. So there we go. So then this paragraph is about how werewolves are more heroic. I started off, how do you start these paragraphs? You start them with a topic sentence, a sentence that tells the reader what this paragraph is going to be about. So it's like a very mini little piece of a thesis statement. So I'd started off with something interesting usually, but it could be something as simple as, werewolves today have shown more heroism than I'm not going to say the word werewolves twice in one sentence. That's a lot, right? Werewolves today have shown more heroism than they ever have before, right? So that's an interesting sentence, and it tells the reader this paragraph is going to be about how heroic werewolves are. So then I would explain, and maybe in this paragraph I would talk about how werewolves are, let me see, what would I say? I would give examples like from movies and stuff. I would talk about werewolves like Twilight. I mean, those werewolves are definitely the good guys. I would talk about werewolves from lots of movies like, what's that one? Underworld. I'd bring up them because sometimes they're heroic. So I'd use some examples of that. So that's really what I would do is come up with examples and an explanation and an argument to prove this point. So I would give some examples and I would say, look at these examples. They show you that werewolves are more heroic than they ever have been before. in order for this to work, I would also have to bring in, make sure that I'm telling the truth, right? So I need to look at other sources. I happen to know that there are about 200-year-old French werewolf stories where werewolves become heroic. And that's when it starts. I don't really know of any stories before that. So I find that in my research and I go, oh, interesting. Okay. So maybe should I change my thesis to instead be 21st century just to include the last few hundred years? Maybe? Or should I keep what I have and maybe either I don't talk about the French one because I think it's not really arguing against me because it's just one example in one place in the entire planet, right? Or I could bring it up and say, you see the beginning of this change here in the story of Bisclavret, and then you see it continued today with movies that we have and stuff. So that's one idea for how you could do this. Lots of ideas. So how you write your essays and how you build your paragraphs is up to you. But basically, you want your topic sentence. You want that followed by your argument. And even if it's an informative essay, you're arguing. You're still trying to make a point, right? Argument, and then examples. And then you can go back and forth. Argument, examples, share more examples, whatever you want, but build that paragraph. And then I would rinse and repeat. Do the same thing for the next one. So the next paragraph needs a heading as well. It's about how werewolves are dangerous. So this would be very, very boring as far as headings go. But you can hear the werewolves fighting around me. That's not a very good pattern for these headings, but I mean, it would work, right? But these headings could be something even as simple as just dangerous. That's a fine heading. It's not, again, it's still not great. But most people like to see something creative, like this title, The Beast Within. So, danger, I don't know, it's danger, always more dangerous, maybe. If that, oftentimes you write the actual essay first and you go back and looking for what matches. So am I imagining there that if I wrote the heading was always more dangerous, then that paragraph would be about how you can look and see how they're increasingly getting more dangerous as movies and books continue, something like that. So yeah, that's how you write your body paragraphs. Just simply go through them one at a time and write your headings for each one. And then you'd have a third one here, right? And so example number 3, let's just copy and paste that. Always more interesting. Again, topic sentence followed by argument and examples, and then you do your conclusion. A lot of people put for their conclusion heading, they'll just put conclusion, which is fine. It's very boring, but it's fine. Conclusion. So here we go, right? Also has to be centered though. Bam. And then we come down here. So, and then we do the conclusion. In the conclusion, I'll come back to that heading in a second. In the conclusion, you want to do basically the same thing you did in your introduction in reverse. You want to restate your thesis statement in new words, and then you want to follow it with anything else the reader needs to know. And it's best to have the opposite of a hook, what's called a sinker at the end, something else, another attention getter. The same idea. It could be a quote, shocking statistic, facts, figures, a story. Even stories work really well. So my conclusion, you can start these any way you want, but an easy way is just say in conclusion. In conclusion, and I would again restate. You don't want to introduce anything new in your conclusion. So I'd start with in conclusion, werewolves have been in Western literature since the dawn of the West. So I want to say that in new words down here. In conclusion, werewolves have been with us since the dawn of time. Right? So in that way, I'm using new words, but I'm using the word dawn, so at least it kind of harkens back. Might make the reader remember. Who knows? So in conclusion, I just smeared that. In conclusion, werewolves have been with us since the dawn of time. And then I restate the thesis statement. It's best if in new words, right? So I say 21st century werewolves are different werewolves of the past, and they're more heroic, dangerous, and interesting. So then I would say that werewolves are more and it wants, by the way, this has to be in the same order that it is in your actual essay. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Up here in your thesis statement, notice these things are listed in the exact same order that they show up. That's important because this is a map. This is something for your reader to know what's coming. So same thing down here. So dangerous was not the first one. It was heroic. Werewolves are more heroic, dangerous, and interesting than they have ever been. Right? That's a neat one. And then maybe I end with a quote again. Look, and by the way, to find quotes, my favorite thing to do is just to simply get in Google and type in quotes about blank. You'll almost always find a lot of quotes from Goodreads, which are quotes from books, which is great. Like Jane Austen quotes, a really good thing, right? So that's one way to find a cool ending. Sometimes you can type in, like I could type in werewolf facts or werewolf or strange werewolf facts, amazing werewolf quotes or things like that. At the end, it's really up to me. So maybe I will end it. Let me just minimize me again. Maybe I end it with a challenge, right? That's another thing. There's a lot of ways. You just want to have something interesting there. So next time, I was about to say you, but man, we avoid as much as possible trying to use second person in academic essays. First person's okay now, but second person is still kind of like, ugh. But writing is art, so if it works, it works, right? I think it works right here. So next time you, especially because it's the very end, it's the conclusion, right? Let's give it a shot and see if the professor hates it. If it's me, I wouldn't. So next time you see a werewolf in movies or literature or video games, I don't know, what's my final challenge? Like, remember what do they want? What do I want them to remember? So next time you see a werewolf in movies, literature, video games, remember that you're seeing the best werewolf human culture can produce. That's lame. So this is part of writing. This is why I'm saying edit. Never fall in love with what you write. So no, that's a garbage ending. So never mind. Instead, I'm going to go look. I find a quote. Quotes are great. Maybe my end quote is, there's a little bit of, it's hard to know what I want to say, a little bit of werewolf in all of us. And maybe who said that? Let's say it was, and if, by the way, you have to say said so-and-so. This is still a sentence. Some students will do like a quote, and then they'll go like this. Quote, cave, like if this was my quote. That's fine if you're just kind of doing bullet points, but in a sentence, no, this needs to still be a sentence. So it would still say, a little bit of werewolf in all of us, comma, quote, said Steve Cave. And because it's a quote, it still needs to be cited. So where do I find this? Maybe it's from something I wrote, so my name's going to be at the beginning. 2022, page 21, if that's the page it was on. If it's not from a book with pages, if it's from the internet, then I would just put Cave 2022, and then in the references, it'll tell you where everything is. So that's my essay. Pretty cool, right? So same thing. You come up here. I want a page break. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to do a page break insert. So I go pages, page break. Now, and you want to do that because sometimes people's references kind of creep up into their essay if you don't do this. So this is the same thing. Now we're doing our reference page. I want to center it, type in references. That needs to be bold. And then, again, it should be over here. I want it on the left. So again, you'd write your references. References, how to structure them is extremely specific to what you're referencing. So I have a lot of resources online, and then there's websites I recommend. The Purdue OWL page is incredible, but so is the APA style guide page. It's free. It's also really good. But you'll notice if you start looking, like there's a different way to cite everything. In general, it will go author's name, last name, comma, first initial, period, space, parentheses, the year that whatever this is came out, end parentheses, period, space, the title of the thing. What did I write that we're citing? How about werewolf quotes? Because the book of werewolf quotes that I've apparently written. So I'd say werewolf quotes. And then if this is a book, then the publisher. So Random House, and that's it. If it's a book. But most of us are going to be citing things like web pages, and those get more complicated. For those, you have the title of the article, if there is one, the title of the page, if it's a web page. So like, what web page did we get this from? How about we got it from about.com? Sure, right? You don't put the link there. What you do is you put the link then after it, right? So then if there was a link, you put it here, HTTP, there you go. That's my, so that then you have the link. Oftentimes though, this link is really long, and so it'll end up getting bumped to the next page, which is not important unless it is. So let me give you an example of an entry that goes to the next line. So we have Cave S 2022. Maybe this book was written by a few of us. So there was me, there was also Johnson E, and I don't know, Hatfield W, and McCoy L, right? So those are all the people. We all wrote this together, and now it's coming on the second page. That's good. I also want to give it a longer title. How about like where have all of the werewolves gone? A study in lycanthropic history. Maybe that's a book that I wrote in. That'd be cool, huh? Or it's just the name of the article, and then we have the website. There it is. And this website is not long enough at all, so I'm going to copy, because the thing, websites tend to be massive, right? So this is a better example. This is just from what happens to be open on my computer. So perfect. So you see how this link gets cut. It'll cut at one of the slashes, and it cuts it. That's okay. What we're worried about here is every reference needs to have what's called a hanging indent. So what's a hanging indent? And how does it work? So you want to highlight the section. Now there's a couple ways to do this. One way is to come up here to this little button we were at before. This is kind of the complicated way. And then you go to line spacing options, and you can go to special and give it a hanging indent. That's fine. It's just a complicated way. Another way is to hit Control T. That's what I just did. Let me go back. So I hold down the Control button, and then I hit T, and then it has a hanging indent. You have to individually highlight each entry for this to work. On an Apple computer, you would do the Command button T. It's always T. So that's how you do it. That's a hanging indent. The other thing I want to make sure I warn you about is that sometimes these email addresses, for some reason, end up like breaking this whole thing, and you end up, I don't know if I can make it happen, like that. So you'll have your entry, and then for some reason the website is down here and sticking out. You only want, everything should be indented except the first part of each entry. It makes it easier to look through, right? So that's the last thing I want to make sure I talk to you guys about. And then as far as references go, only put things in your references that you actually reference in your essay, which means like you cited. Only put references that you cite. Otherwise, they don't count for anything. But sometimes we like read a bunch of stuff, and we want to at least have the reader know that that stuff was in our head, even if we don't cite it. So how to do that is after your references page, you do another section that is in every way exactly like your references. Same rules for formatting and everything, except at the top, instead of references, you say works consulted. Yeah, that's it. That's the difference. So, I mean, when you write like a big essay, sometimes you want to like mention it. By the way, I read all these books, even if I didn't mention them or reference them, right? So there is my basic overview of APA and how to structure an APA essay. I'm not sure where you're seeing this, but I do have templates and example essays and a highlighted example essay ready to go to share with anybody. So just let me know if you need to see those and if you have any specific questions about any of this. I know this was a lot. This was about a half-hour long video, but we're covering a lot of important stuff and the basics. So there you go. Good luck.